Yastyaktvā rūpamadhyam prabhavati jagataha anekadha anugrahaya prakshina klesharashihi vishama vishadharaha anekavaktra subhogi sarvajnana prasutihi bhujaka parikaraha pritaye yasya nityam devo hishaha savo vyat sita vimalatanuhu yogado yogayuktaha yogena chittasya padena vacham malam sharirasya cha vaidyakena yopakarotam pravaram muninam patanjalim pranjaliranatosmi आबाहु पुरुषाकारं शङ्खचक्रासिधारिणं सहस्रशिरसं श्वेतं प्रणमामि पतञ्जलिं श्रीमते अनन्ताय नागराजाय नमो नमः पातञ्जलमहाभाष्य चरक प्रतिसंस्कृतैः मनोवाक्कायदोषाणां हर्त्रे अहिपतये नमः Last time we talked a little bit about yoga, because we were doing the sutra Yogaha Chitta Vritti Nirodhaha, and there I had used an example of yoga as a connection. And in this context I gave an example that a state where we are very connected is also a state of love. So today the whole world celebrates the day of love, so please enjoy this day with all your loved ones like family and friends. Today we will continue on to the next sutra, Tada Drashtuhu Svarupe Avasthanam. Last time Patanjali defines what is called as yoga, Yogaha Chitta Vritti Nirodhaha. And we understood this as, okay, in the state of yoga, you are connected with the object of focus. And when you are connected with the object of focus without any distractions, this is called yoga state, and you are fully engaged with that object of focus. Now, the next sutra is saying what is the consequence of such a state. Tada drashtuhu svarupe avasthanam. What is the purpose of being in the yoga state? Because Patanjali also is a little smart. He thinks that unless he provides us some benefits, maybe we will not pursue the state of yoga. So he gives us some benefits. So he describes this through the sutra, which is called as Svarupa Sutra. Because this describes the benefit of yoga, which is the realization of our true self. That is why it's called Svarupa Sutra. Tada means then. Tada means as a consequence. Then, as a consequence of Chitta Vritti Nirodha, this is what is the meaning of the word Tada. Certain acharyas say Tada refers to Chitta Vritti Nirodha Samaye. In that state of Chitta Vritti Nirodha, while we are in the state of chitta vritti nirodha. And the remainder of the sutra says, Drashtuhu Svarupe Avasthanam. Drashtuhu Svarupe Avasthanam. Drashtuhu refers to an entity called Drashta. An entity called Drashta. Svarupe Avasthanam. In a simple way, it means it is established in its own nature. It's established in its own nature. To further understand this, we need to understand both what is the meaning of drashta and what is its svarupa. We need to understand both of these. Drashta is coming from the origin darshayati, pashyati, darshana karta iti drashta. Darshayati means that which perceives. If I have to give a metaphor, the drashta is the perceiver in us. For example, when we are wearing glasses and we are seeing through the glass, now I am seeing the object of focus. Now who is this I? Now the glass is helping me see. My glasses are helping me see. Now the glass is not the perceiver. It's a medium of perception. Now behind the glass there is the eyes. The eyes are not the perceiver. It is only also a indriya, a medium of perception. Neither is the mind the perceiver, because mind is also a medium of perception. So what is behind all that? The actual perceiver, who we denote I, that is drashta, the perceiver. In the Yoga and Sankhya school, we say that human beings, or rather any living organism, is made up of two parts. One part called Purusha, one part called Prakriti. Drashta is the Purusha part, that which is conscious, that which is the perceiver. Now please remember, perception is not only through the eyes. We also perceive through ears, we also perceive through smell, we also perceive through taste, we also perceive through feeling. Also in yoga school there is perception that is beyond the senses. We will come to this a little bit later. And Patanjali talks about means of perception, where he says pratyaksha, anumana, agamaha, pramanani. Later sutra this will clarify. But perception is something that is common to all of this. Who is perceiving is the drashta. That is what is the meaning of pashyati. That means the one who sees. Darshayati, the one who actually understands, reveals the meaning behind. Darshanam means to understand something, to reveal something, to see something. So somebody who sees ultimately. Darshana karta, he is also who makes us see. Simple metaphor, if we are all dead, consciousness is left the body, we see that we cannot see the objects of focus anymore. Even though we have eyes, nose, etc., a dead body cannot perceive. A living body is perceiving. So the darshana karta, he also, the drashta is also the one who makes us to see, who makes us, who wants us to see. So this is what is called drashta. In a loosely translated form, the English equivalent can be something called consciousness. But this is also a bit controversial, because in modern language, especially in English, which is very much influenced by Western science, Western thinking, consciousness is often associated with conscious mind. Whereas in Yoga, Sankhya philosophy, Vedanta philosophy, consciousness is somewhat different. It is a little bit beyond the mind. It is not part of mind. It is something deeper. It is what is called Purusha. It is what is called Jiva. It is called Atma. It is also called Drashta. Different words are used. It is that part inside us which is non-changing, that is perceiving, that is the master of all the other entities such as the mind and the senses. So this is what we are defining as Drashta. So Drashta is this. Now we can also call it individual consciousness, because in the school of yoga they say that we all have an individual consciousness that is very unique to each of us. The concept is called Purusha Bahutanata, the plurality of consciousness. Each of us, we have a unique individual consciousness. A simple way to establish this is, just because one person dies, not everybody does not die, because the consciousness in one person is disconnecting from the body. That doesn't mean the consciousness of another person is also disconnecting from their body. We all don't die at the same time. So yoga is establishing therefore this theory of what is called Purusha Bahutanata. There is plurality of the sentient principle, plurality of Drashta. That's why each person perceives uniquely. We are all perceiving through our consciousness. We all do not have the same way of perception. That's also because the senses and mind are different, but also because consciousness itself is unique. It's different. Each of us have what is called Baddha Jiva or Jivatma, that which is unique to our body, our construct. Now, another important aspect has to be defined here, which is that Drashta is the experiencer, Purusha is the experiencer. When you say Sukham or Dukham, who is experiencing Sukham or Dukham? It's not mind, it's not senses, it's basically the Drashta. This is also from the Sankhya and the Yoga school. In a poem called Dhyana Malika, Krishnamacharya clarifies this. Sankhye Patanjali Shastre Bhoktaram Purushan Jaguhu. Who is experiencing this world? According to the Sankhya and the Yoga school, the experiencer of this world is Drashta. It's not your mind, it's not your senses. One who experiences is the Drashta, is the Purusha. So we talk about Drashta in these kind of attributes, the who is experiencing. This is also a very big difference from modern thinking, because sometimes we think that mind is the one experiencing, we think that the senses are the one that is experiencing, but the Anubhava is that for Purusha. Now, when we define it this way, then comes the next part, Drashtuhu Svarupe Avasthanam. Avasthanam means to be established. Svarupe means in its own nature, in its Svarupa. When we are in a state of Chittavritti Nirodha, the Drashta establishes itself in its own nature. So when such a statement has been made, we have to understand what is its own nature. What is its own nature? In this context, Krishnamacharya clarifies this. What is the own nature of Drashta? He describes two nature. Jnana Ghana Ananda Ghana Svarupe Avasthanam. Jnana Ghana Ananda Ghana Svarupe Avasthanam. Ghana means heavy. It's like its weight, something which is filled with. It's filled with jnanam, jnana ghana. It is heavy with knowledge. Ananda ghana. It is heavy with joy. Joy. This joy is not sensual joy. It's a joy that is beyond. Jnana ghana, ananda ghana svarupe. So the actual nature of Drashta, the Svarupa of the Drashta, is to be heavy with Jnanam and Anandam. Now, this is a very significant difference between the Western philosophies and yoga philosophy or the Vedic philosophies. A key difference, and that's we have to understand that very much, because today we are very much influenced by modern education. Even in India, we go to schools that are based on modern education, not old education. So the paradigms are different, and when we understand subjects like yoga and other Vedic philosophy, very often if we try to understand it through the modern way of thinking, sometimes there are gaps. So that's why we have to understand from the yogic point of view, from where the yoga Vedic philosophy come from. And in this they are saying Jnanam is an attribute of Purusha. Jnanam is not an attribute of mind. This is very important for us to understand. Jnanam is an attribute of Drashta, of Purusha. It is not an attribute of mind. In modern science, we are always associating Jnanam to be an attribute of mind, brain function, memory. We are basing on this. This is very important difference. And if you see, our language is also influenced by such an understanding. For example, in Samskrita language, we say Jnanam. Jnanam represents, is an attribute of consciousness, the self, I. In Malayalam, the word for I is Jnan. Jnan means I. In Tamil, the word is Nan. Nan. That's how the language is evolving. Nan means I. The knowledge of I, or that I has the knowledge, is implied here. So, tada drashtuhu swarupe avasthanam is when the drashta, the I, is full of knowledge, is a state when it's full of knowledge. So, knowledge is a fundamental attribute of drashta. Now, this is clarified by commentators who have talked about the Yogasutra. For example, there is a great Acharya called Vijnana Bhikshu who has written a commentary called the Yoga Vartika. In this commentary, he clarifies. He says there are two kinds of knowledge. Smriti Samskara Janya Jnanam is one kind. Smriti Samskara Janya Jnanam. Janya means born out of. Knowledge born out of memory and samskara, memory and habits. Smriti means memory, samskara means habit. Some knowledge we have based on memory and habit. Suppose I meet you, today I find out your name. I have an experience, I find out your name. Next time I meet you, I remember who you are. I have memory of who you are. So I know who you are because of memory. Third time I see you, I know who you are, but not only that, because of our interaction, I am also observing your habits. Plus, the habit of meeting you again and again creates a pattern that I know you very well. Over a period of time, I say I know you very well because we have met each other many times. There is a samskara that is established. Learning a language. We don't even think about the language when we are so used to it, because memory and samskara makes us speak the language fluently. We don't think about it anymore. We just speak it spontaneously, especially if it is our mother tongue, or if there is another language that we have learned very well, we speak fluently because memory and samskara influences us. So there is one set of knowledge that is called samskara, smriti samskara janya jnanam. This is domain of mind, manas, chitta, etc. This is how we are learning about people, about mathematics, about science. This is what is called laukika jnanam, knowledge of the normal material world, the materialistic knowledge. When I say materialistic, don't think commercial. Materialism means in the In the language, it means that which deals with material, purusha, prakriti, that which deals with prakriti, matter. Science is a materialistic knowledge because we are dealing with matter that is measurable. So this is one form of knowledge. They call it the inferior knowledge, because this knowledge is very much dependent on memory and samskara, that is attributes of senses and of mind. Now the senses also has memory and samskara. The eyes have a pattern of seeing. The eyes are not smelling. The eyes are generally having a pattern of seeing. That's one samskara. But there's also another samskara. The eyes usually have a pattern of seeing things a certain way. For example, there's a glass which is half empty. Somebody may have the pattern of seeing, oh, it's half empty, it's half empty, half empty. Somebody else may have the pattern of saying, oh, it's half full, oh, it's half full. There's a way of perception that is also a pattern. Now, these are all low level, mundane, laukika jnanam. But that is not the only knowledge. There is also another knowledge, that is where Yoga Vartika is saying, Smriti Samskara Shesha Jnanam. Shesha means sleeping, passive. When memory and samskara are passive, that means they are withdrawn. When they are withdrawn, there comes another knowledge, that is the knowledge of an experience where you are part of an experience. It's a knowledge that comes from a place of connection. It's not coming from memory, it's not coming from samskaras. Now, we talked about chitta vritti nirodha. What is chitta vritti nirodha? It's the withdrawal of the chitta vrittis from any patterns that is distracting us from the connection we share with the object of focus. So that means there is a withdrawal of the smriti and samskara as well, because smriti and samskara are part of the chitta vrittis. You will see later, smriti is defined as a chitta vritti. And when smriti is included, samskara is automatically included. So there is a knowledge that is beyond patterning and memory. That is the attribute of Purusha. That higher knowledge, what is called Yogika Jnanam or Vaidika Jnanam, that is an attribute of Purusha. That's why Patanjali later in the first chapter also says, Smriti Parishuddhau Swarupashunyeva Artha Matra Nirbhasa Nirvitarka. He talks about higher state of Samadhi, where he says we have to refine memory and samskara, you have to clean it again and again and again, so that the perception is not based on memory and samskara, the perception is based on the connection that you have with the consciousness, with the drashta. Knowledge coming from such an experience is the superior knowledge. That is what is called jnana gana swarupe. Jnana gana swarupe. That knowledge is the heavier knowledge, the more valuable knowledge. It's not light knowledge. See, when we are talking about in a metaphoric sense, when we say something is superficial, we say it is on the surface. What is on the surface is light things. Whereas when something is more valuable, it's heavy, it's worth some weight, we say. Even in English language, we say it's worth its weight in gold. Gold is heavy. You put it in water, it sinks. This is gana. Gana means heavy. So this is not the superficial light knowledge. This is the heavy knowledge, the knowledge that is worthy of sinking in deep inside, because it is really the more refined knowledge, the knowledge that comes from being in the state of yoga. This is what is the first meaning, that drashta is in its swarupa, means it is able to be in that state of heavier knowledge, the more deeper knowledge. When we know somebody from mind and samskara, we know them one way. But when we know them through a connection, Sometimes mind and samskara will know something, but the deeper mind, the deeper connection, the heart will say something more profound. That is the jnana ganam. Similarly, ananda ganam, joy. The natural state of the consciousness is a state of joy. It is not in a state of dukham. The natural state of consciousness is expansion. Expansion is the natural state, and when we are expansive, we are happy, we are ananda. Today, the World Cup cricket is starting, different countries are playing. Now you will see that in a game of cricket, usually one team wins, one team loses. The one team that is winning is expanding because they are happy. That's why I said ananda is a state of expansion. Whereas the team that is losing, they collapse, they contract. This is dukham. The state of consciousness is the drashta's natural state is expansive. It wants to expand. Wants to expand. That's why there is ananda. Ananda is a state of expansion. It wants to be happy. But somehow it's not allowed to be happy because the Prakriti is trapping it. And therefore it feels contracted usually. That's why some scholars or some acharyas call the jiva as Baddha Jiva, because it's not free. When it is free, it is called Mukta Jiva. Mukta means free. Because it is not free, it becomes constrained. It is naturally not happy. Usually not happy because of kleshas, because of avidya, because of other things. The consciousness is not happy, it's contracting. But when chitta vritti nirodha is established, the consciousness is no more trapped, it starts to become more and more open, starts to become more and more free. Therefore, it is in a state of ananda, it becomes more and more joyful. The word ananda comes from the word nanda. Nanda means to dance. Usually when we are very happy, we dance in one form or the other. We are dancing, like when they talked about the World Cup cricket. The team that is winning, the players and the fans, they start dancing when they are winning. Whereas those people who are not winning, they are collapsing. So nanda, dance, to dance. And that's why when we are in a state of chitta vritti nirodha, it's not that we are going to dance outside. The heart will be dancing. That's why Krishnamacharya clarifies this in a verse in the chant called Yoganjali Saram that he wrote. Nrityati yogi hridaye dhritva sundara vapusham lakshmi kantam jagadadharam paramatmanam nandati nandati nandatyeva. Nrityati yogi hridaye dhritva. When the yogi is connected to the heart, heart meaning the drashta or what is in the heart, and he clarifies that Nrityati yogi hridaye dhritva sundara vapusham lakshmi kantam. Lakshmi Kanta is the name for Narayana, which is the supreme consciousness. And in the Vedic philosophy, they say that supreme consciousness, what is called Paramatma, is also in the heart. When the yogi is linked to the divine consciousness that is in the heart, nandati nandati nandatyeva. He is dancing and dancing and dancing with joy. It's not outside dancing. He may be still outside, but in the heart there is that great joy that he is connected to the divine. The same way, a yogi who is in a state of chitta vritti nirodha, he will be in a state of expansion, he will be in a state of joy. Dukham will not affect that person. See, dukham is an experience that comes because of misunderstanding of the situation or experiencing the situation in a certain way that is not necessarily what we are expecting. A situation does not make you dukham. It's how you look at it that makes you Dukham. For example, the cricket match example I gave, two teams are playing. One team is winning, one team is losing. Why? Because the one team which is losing has the expectation that it wants to win. And the one team that is won has the expectation that it wants to win. Nobody is playing to lose. The fans are disappointed because they expect their team to win. They don't expect the other team to win. But for a yogi, he will be happy no matter which team wins, because his perception will be something different. He will perceive this as, oh, this was a good game of cricket. This was a good game of cricket. I am happy that I came. Whether this fellow wins or this fellow wins, that causes Dukham is because we are attached to one team more than the other. This is what is called the kleshas. The kleshas make us attached to one set of expectations, one set of rules and regulations more than the other. Therefore, we want that which is favorable to us to succeed, and when it doesn't happen, we get Dukham. Whereas for a yogi who is in a state of chittavritti nirodha, he is free from bias. Chittavritti nirodha state frees us from bias, because the jnanam is not smriti samskara janya jnanam, it is smriti samskara shesha jnanam. When India plays against another team, my identification is with Indian team because I am Indian. I am very proud to be Indian. But I am used to being Indian because this is my samskara. Every day I am reminded myself that I am in India. I am living in India. I work in India. I teach in India. And everything about the environment also reminds me I am in India. So the smriti and samskara are strongly reminding me I am Indian. So when the teams play, I am expecting my team to win. That is the bias. But if I was in a state of yoga, I would not get myself attached to this identification that I am Indian. Maybe I will not even be attached to the idea that I am a fan of cricket. I will look at it from a neutral eye. So I will enjoy whatever is manifesting, because the manifestation of the nature is very unique every moment of life. So I will enjoy the moment rather than suffer because of expectation. Even enjoying because of expectation will not be important. Even when my team wins, that happiness is because of the expectation that I want my team to win. Therefore, the reality has coincided with my expectation. But it's not the reality that I am enjoying the moment. A person who is enjoying the moment, that is what is chittavritti nirodha. A person who is enjoying the moment will only look at it as, this was a good game of cricket today. I have enjoyed this. It was a good game of cricket. I have enjoyed it. He or she will not be worried about which side wins, which side loses. Even if the match is cancelled, he will enjoy this at the moment. Okay, now maybe I can go and have a coffee. He will not be affected by, oh my God, what happened, match got cancelled. So that's why the person will be in a state, in a ananda gana swarupe. Because when you enjoy every moment, you will realize that life is indeed a gift. Every moment that we have is a gift. In this context, I always tell my students this thing. You know, many of us, we complain about life, and sometimes we are not happy with what we have. But when we look at the beauty of creation, the beauty of God's creation, the beauty of nature's creation, if we are alive, that means consciousness is living in our body, has chosen to live in our body. Because in the Yoga Sankhya school, they say that Purusha enters Prakriti. So Purusha is choosing a Prakriti to enter. So if the Purusha has chosen my body to enter and be there, it has given enough value to my body that I am worthy of something. I am valuable. Whether I am rich or I am poor, it doesn't matter. I am still alive. Whether I am coming from one country or another country, it doesn't matter. Whether I am sick or healthy, it doesn't matter. Purusha is still alive in the body. Whether I am handicapped or not, it doesn't make any differentiation. Purusha is still in your body. It means it's finding some value to be in your body. So we have to take that as a gift, and that is what a yogi will do. A yogi will value every minute of his life and enjoy that minute, fully knowing that this moment is a gift. When we start living that way, we are going to have this called ananda gana. And this joy is not dependent on the senses. Whether I have a sensual pleasure, like I eat very nice food, or I hear very nice music, or I see a nice cinema, that's not important. When we remind ourselves that I am alive still, I am alive still, the Drashta is choosing to be with me. When the yogi starts looking at it this way, he will be in a state of ananda. That's why for yogis, they valued every moment as a gift. And this happens when we feel connected to the heart, to the Drashta. That's why it all goes back to chitta vritti nirodha, to be in a state of connection. When we are connected to the true self in the heart, we will know how valuable it is. Whereas when we are connected to asmita, identifications, I have to look in this particular way, I have to have this kind of a job, I have to belong to this status circle in the society, etc. When we start making those identifications more important, when we connect with the identifications more, we are disconnected from ourselves. That is why we are not in ananda, because all other transactions are usually momentary and passing. They are not permanent. Whereas the only connection that is permanent is the connection that we have to ourselves. Consciousness is never going to desert us. Wherever we go, it will come with us. Whereas all other identities desert us. When you are very famous, you have a group of friends who are very close to you. When your fame collapses, those friends disappear. They say, bye-bye, I don't know you. When you are sleeping, your identity withdraws. When you are sleeping, who are you? Are you male? Are you female? While you are sleeping, you don't have that clarity. Are you rich? Are you poor? You don't know. Are you Indian? Are you Japanese? Are you Chinese? You don't know. While you are sleeping, that identity also deserts you. It's also transient. But who doesn't desert you? Drashta. As long as you are alive, Drashta is the only thing that doesn't desert itself, because you is the Drashta. It does not desert itself, it stays. That is what is Swarupe Avasthanam. The yogi extends this by staying with himself, the connection. This does not mean he is antisocial with others. Basically, when we feel very deeply connected to ourselves in the heart, we will be able to connect from our heart with other people. We'll be able to establish heart-to-heart connections that are more meaningful rather than identity to identity, ego to ego, asmita to asmita connection. If I connect with somebody based on status, today if I lose the status, that person no more wants to be my friend. If I connect with a person based on identity of a country, I am Indian, you are Indian, therefore we are connected. Tomorrow if my identity changes, suppose I go and live in another country for 10 years, get a new nationality, my identity also changes. So I am no more Indian, I am somebody else. But if the connection is based on the heart, that connection will never change. So that is why the sutra Tada Drashtu Swarupe Avasthanam basically is a way that Patanjali is saying that through the process of yoga, we are relearning how to connect with our heart. Because when we are babies, when we were children, we were very much connected with ourselves. Babies know the connection to themselves, because when they are hungry, they cry. When they are happy, they laugh. When they are tired, they sleep. They know exactly how they feel. But somehow as we develop into adults, Smriti Samskara Janya Jnanam takes prominence. Knowledge that is based on Smriti and Samskara takes prominence. Therefore, the disconnection happens with the self. So, Tada Drashtu Swarupe Avasthanam is Patanjali's way of saying, when you practice yoga, you will slowly learn to reconnect with yourself. The disconnection that you have will disappear and the reconnection will happen. This is what is Tada Drashtu Swarupe Avasthanam. Then you will have the more deeper knowledge. Then you will have the more deeper joy, the joy that is beyond the senses, the knowledge that is beyond mind and senses. So you will transcend the domain of mind and senses. That's why I said to you right in the beginning, for understanding this sutra, we have to understand that there is a paradigm difference between the Vedic way of looking at things and the modern way of looking at things. In modern science, in modern era, we give the highest predominance or the highest importance to mind and senses, mind especially, mind. But yoga is basically giving a much more importance to the heart. Things which are much more subtler than mind and senses. That's why it even talks about perception that is beyond senses, perception that is beyond mind. We will see it in a couple of sutras. So that's why if we truly want to understand, the philosophy of yoga and the experience of yoga, we have to take the senses and mind and tell them, never mind.